research we do, we spend a lot of time on sharing our information through technology transfer and training, and this netcast, I hope, is a good example of that. We are also involved in education through teaching courses, through engaging our students in the research that we perform, through mentoring our students and developing that next generation of transportation professionals. We're very multidisciplinary at CUTR. We have, in addition to civil engineers, we have people who are coming from various backgrounds, such as public administration, business administration, geography, economics, mathematics. And, in fact, a lot of our faculty members have worked at public transportation agencies themselves. Some 15 of our faculty members have been public transit employees. At any given time, we've got well over 100 active projects going on. We have a fairly substantial portfolio of over $8 million in research, about a third of it being federal research, another third being research that we do with the Florida Department of Transportation, and the remaining third being with local agencies, whether they be public transit agencies or expressway authorities or regional planning agencies or MPOs. 45 full-time research faculty members are dedicated to this function. And in addition to that, we have at any one time at least 20 students that are engaged in helping us conduct this research. One of our more prominent programs is the National Center for Transit Research, and CUTR has had this designation as a University Transportation Center since 1991. We get about $2 million a year from the federal government and from our Florida Department of Transportation. And in our case, our mission is, as you see it on the screen, to enhance the relevance and performance of public transportation and alternative forms of transportation in urban areas. So we really stress public transportation as well as van pooling, carpooling, telecommuting, flex hours, bicycles, pedestrian activities, etc. And in fact, we're the largest concentration of public transportation researchers in a single university in the United States and probably the world. Now, in addition to the research we do, we, as I mentioned earlier, we are very dedicated to sharing the results of our research with the rest of the transportation community. One of the things we produce is the Journal of Public Transportation that has about 2,500 subscribers in over 50 countries throughout the world. We have very active listservs that we manage and administer. In fact, we have over 5,000 professionals who are part of those listservs, and we certainly invite you, if you are not already a member, to join one of them. The net meetings is something that we have really become far more interested in as travel budgets get very tight and people aren't able to go to conferences like they used to. Meetings such as this are great for allowing more people from more agencies to be able to find out the information that's being produced and hopefully can be used in your workplace. And we're also very much engaged in professional development through conferences that we are the program managers of. And in fact, one of the ones that we'll speak of today is the GIS conference that we sponsor every 2 years that Amber Reep will be talking about. And so with no further information on CUTR, I'd like to again welcome you and thank you very much for taking time out of your day to join this webcast. And now that you know a little bit more about us, we were hoping that we might be able to find out more about those who are participating in this netcast today. So we would ask if you would take part in this little polling exercise. All you need to do is click on the box on the left that represents your situation. How many other people are viewing today's webcast with you? If it's only yourself, please click on the red, and if it's one, the blue, etc., and we'll get a greater sense of the nature of the audience that's taking part. And we'll give this about 20 seconds to complete. And Jennifer, I think if the results are in, we can see that by and large, people are at their desks conveniently during their lunch hour, in this case, viewing the netcast, participating in it, but we also have other situations. 4 other groups have another person in addition to themselves in the room. In one other case, we have 2 people, as you see, and and in one case we have as many as 3. So that is something that we think makes this form of presentation so convenient and so flexible that you can do it from virtually anywhere via the internet and the phone right at your desk. And Jennifer, let's ask that second question in terms of where the people are located. We'd like to know how many of you are from the state of Florida and how many of you are from other locations throughout the country to see what sort of penetration we're achieving in terms of our reach in this netcast. Again, we'll give about another 5 seconds for everybody to log in. Interestingly, we have 2 from outside the United States, and we have people from the Midwest, the Northeast, and the Southeast outside of Florida participating. So that's great. We welcome everybody to this netcast and look forward to presenting information and also interacting with you a little bit later on. And Jennifer, that last question of which type of organization do you represent? Are you with a transit or commuter assistance program? Do you work with the DOT, federal government, an MPO, university, consultant? Five more seconds to vote. And I think we can see that we've got a pretty broad base of representation from a number of different interests and agencies. A slight majority or plurality to transit or TDM, but our local government or state DOT representatives are just about at the same amount at 31%. MPOs, we have 9% of our participants representing them and 18% from universities and 6% from consultants. So with that, it's time to really get to the heart of the matter, and it's my pleasure to introduce you to 2 of my friends and colleagues who will be updating you on developments in GIS at CUTR, and that is Martin Catala, our Senior Research Associate and Manager of the GIS Program at CUTR, and Amber Reep, Senior Research Associate and Manager of Transit Training Programs at CUTR. Martin?
Thank you very much, Joel. I appreciate the introduction. I do want to take the time to say thank you to CUTR for giving us this sort of venue to promote something that we're working on that's important to both Amber and I, and of course to Nectar for providing the funding for the Clearinghouse and for the conference. Without them, we wouldn't be able to do these things, and I appreciate their recognition of its importance to the community. Today I want to talk about our clearinghouse, something that's somewhat new, and it's been invigorated with a lot of activity of recent. And I want to talk to you a little bit about the objectives and services that we're hoping that the clearinghouse will provide to the Transit GIS community. It's important for me to note that as we develop these objectives and services, they're not set in stone. I think we, both Amber and I, are devoted to making it a collaborative effort, wanting to make sure that the services that the Clearinghouse provides are meaningful and useful to the Transit GIS professionals, and that's something that I think CUTR and Nectar takes a great deal of pride in. In keeping with the effort that Joel started on, give us a sense of who we're speaking to. Let me get on to our poll questions just to give me a breath of the extent of GIS activity. Not surprised, immediately we're seeing a lot of you, if not probably all of you, have GIS in your organization. That's what I was expecting. For those of you that are just beginning to do that, we certainly want the Clearinghouse to be able to provide services to the breadth of experiences that are out there. Looks like the polls are closed. A very large percentage of work in an organization that currently use GIS, and some of you are unsure if it's being implemented, I guess. And then let's look at the next set to give me a sense of how you use it, if you're daily users or just not daily, but you use it on an incremental basis, or you don't use it, you oversee people who use it. Again, that's important to us in terms of how we deliver not just this presentation, but the Clearinghouse provides its services. Give it a few more moments before Jennifer closes out our poll here. So that looks like we have almost everyone there. So not surprising, almost 80% of you use it on at least a regular basis, maybe not daily, but on a regular basis. And that is an audience that we certainly see the Clearinghouse trying to help and work with. Now that I have sort of a better understanding of who's out there, I want to give a backdrop as to how the Clearinghouse came about. Why are we looking to use a Clearinghouse and create this resource for the community? And really, there are two things. The first was a TCRP synthesis study, Geographic Information Systems in Transit, and it was looking at GIS implementation around the country. And it did case studies of agencies that had successful implementations. One of the things it pointed out was the places that it was successful, they were very successful at it, and places that they were not successful at, there was very little activity at. And one of the observations they made, and I'll quote from their studies, you can read on the screen, is the benefits of GIS are not widely understood or appreciated by managers, and to date the transit GIS community has not done an adequate job in articulating these benefits beyond their own agencies or peers. So it was very isolated. The successes around the country for GIS at transit agencies were very isolated, and there was sort of this lack of capacity to share those experiences and those experiences to be translated into future opportunities for other agencies. And one of the recommendations that came out among several of them, one of them was to improve communications. And again, using their quote from their study, improving the communication of transit GIS programs and benefits to the transit industry and others. This could include the investigation of the revival of the GIS and transit conferences, last held in 1999. I can happily say we've checked that one off. Amber and I have been co-chairs for several of the conferences now, and we feel like it's gaining momentum and interest in the community. And then continuing on, as well as more regular channels and forums for exchanging information about what is happening in the transit GIS sector. So we're hoping that our Clearinghouse becomes one of those channels and forums for the community to speak to each other, to speak to us, and to share information and experiences that would benefit them in terms of gaining traction for using geospatial technologies. Another element of the Clearinghouse that sort of came about as a result of our conferences were that at the end of every conference we felt there was almost a high. Everyone was excited about participating in the conference and excited about engaging their organization, going back to their organization and trying to implement GIS at their organization if they hadn't had an advanced experience at their organization. And we felt that there was sort of a momentum lost between our conferences. So we wanted to try to find a mechanism that would help us bridge the gap between our every other year conference. And although there's been discussion about having it annually, we think that this Clearinghouse would really give us sort of that bridge to continue the conversation that people began when they were attending our conferences. So we really hope this becomes that bridge. Just to be clear, I think it's important for us to kind of point out our objective. It kind of guides us in what we do on our day-to-day basis and what decisions we make about the Clearinghouse. Excuse me. And one of its simple objective is to encourage, through education and technology transfer, the implementation of geospatial technologies at transit agencies. It's very important to me that we point out geospatial technologies because I think frequently people think of GIS as just something that's a desktop application. And if you've been to any of our conferences, you see that it's not just dealing with desktop applications, but it's dealing with the question of geospatial problems, which transit inherently has elements of that help them solve questions about service planning and things of that nature. And we didn't want to exclude technologies such as automatic passenger counters, AVLs, and things of that nature that certainly have a geospatial component to its technology. So this objective will give us sort of a nice guiding principle about how we want to develop, continue to develop the Clearinghouse. Of course, we pride ourselves on being sort of a listening question. One other thing I wanted to get a poll about is sort of the use of software, because this, I understand and recognize, I wanted to put this as primarily used, because I know like in our shop we use more than one GIS software. We're benefited by having a university site license for ESRI, but we do not want to have the Clearinghouse to have any we want to be vendor neutral, I guess is the best way to put it. And it's important to us to understand all of the applications that are out there. So as we're gathering news and communicating with, in some instances, the software vendors about new features and new software tips and tricks, as I'll touch on later on, I want to make sure that we're not excluding any software vendors out there. Looks like we have, not surprisingly, ESRI is a dominant piece of software. It's well developed, but there are, of course, other ones out there. Okay, as the polls are closed, not surprising, nearly 90% of the attendees are ESRI users, or at least primarily ESRI users. That's important for us to understand as we continue to develop some of the components of the GIS Clearinghouse, and I'll touch on those as we proceed. So given our objective, how are we going to meet that? Here's a bulleted list of what I will go through about sort of the goals and objectives that we're going to be performing or doing as part of the Clearinghouse. And I'll go down this list for all of you. Of course, the Transit GIS Conference, and Amber, the co-chair with me on the conference, will be giving you some more information about our most recent 2011 conference that will be coming up. Talk a little bit about our webinars that we're looking to implement. And of course, sort of a traditional mechanism for communication, our listserv, which if you go to the website, I will point you to, you'll be able to register for our GIS and Transit listserv. And then another thing that we're looking to develop are how-to videos, both either it's vendor created or something that we create. We've created a few in-house. Also, we're looking to share geospatial data, and then of course just relevant news and trends to the community so that we can keep people aware of sort of some cutting-edge technologies as well as some cutting-edge news items. So first, let me talk a little bit about the website, which is really the scaffolding essentially for the Clearinghouse. This is where all of the Clearinghouse activities will begin from, and it's a new website, still the same address at transitgis.org. We've redesigned it to make sure that we have featured news being highlighted and recognized by new visitors, and then other elements that we're sort of proud of and we're developing. And this is where it'll be important for us to put, I have a small child in my life, so I say our listening ears. Put on our listening ears to the GIS community to make sure that the desktop tips that we develop in-house, things like as geocoding or accessing and joining census data with your geography files, other data resources like experiences with the LEHD census data, and then there's vendor videos that we look to also. ESRI is quite advanced. They have actually a YouTube website that has how-tos on certain tips and tricks, and other people actually contribute to those. As we sort of scour the internet for this information and develop these tips, we'll want to share those with the user community to make sure that these tips help you when you're trying to implement GIS. I had an experience here at the university where someone was had spent 2 days trying to geocode GPS points. And for those of you who know how to do it, it's a very straightforward task, and once you know the roadmap for doing it, I was able to do it inside of 15 minutes for her. And you would have thought that I created, brought her a brand new, her lost child or something. She was elated at the reality that this was something that we could solve very quickly. And that's how we see ourselves. We want to be able to answer questions that we work on a daily basis. So if you're looking to implement GIS at your organization, we'll be able to help you with those, with some simple tips or answering questions, as well as communicating with the user community through our listserv. Another element of the transitgis.org website is we want to create an opportunity by having an open invitation for guest submissions. These submissions would be sort of lessons learned, experiences that people have had with it could be a new release of the software, or a new experience with Google Transit, or anything along those lines. We would want to invite those of you who have an experience that they think provides sort of teachable moments for those of us that are still looking to improve or learn and how to implement our GIS tools. Another element, and I was reluctant to put this as part of our clearinghouse because I do believe that data is becoming more ubiquitous. It's a little bit easier to get than it used to be. However, I was sort of convinced otherwise, that for those agencies that are just beginning or just struggling to implement GIS, the ability to access data, the ability to know where to get the data is really important, of course. So we will do a combination of things. Number one, we won't try to store data that's already out there, but we will try to point people and give perhaps maybe little tutorials, if there aren't already tutorials out there about it, about how to get census tiger files or how to access GIS data from the nationalmap.gov. These are critical resources that are at the national level that can be very useful for transit planning and transit effort. Additionally, we will offer transit GIS relevant data. We will offer data that can be downloaded. The one that I know we'll have up there that we have just completed the state of Florida, and we'll look to do this for other for other states, since we've already written the script to capture the data, is to have what I characterize as transit-friendly GIS census variables. Things like population, the elderly, youth population, vehicle availability populations. Now, of course, with the census long form being eliminated, access to that data is a little bit difficult at the smaller geographies, and as that data becomes more readily available, we will share those elements so that we're looking at the 2000 or the 2010 data as well. So that's a sense of the data resources that we'll offer to the user community. However, again, we really want to make sure that the data that we share with the user community is something that they really need and want. So as the clearinghouse grows, and any activity you may have on our listserv, please ask us and speak to us about what you do need and what you do want for GIS or spatial data. Software resources. Again, we're pointing to things that I would characterize that constitute a GIS. I think sometimes people just think of GIS as just the software, but it's made up of really four components. Of course, the hardware, which we cannot help you with. We're not going to buy you any new computers. But software resources are a component of a geographic information systems. So we want to make all news and information about upcoming software releases, new release service packs, and things of that nature. We, of course, enjoy, like I stated earlier, an ESRI site license through the university, so we get like early releases of their applications, and of course our experiences with that we would want to share with the user community. And all of these vendors that I have listed here, from Trapeze and Hastis, they all have their own resources that we would try to aggregate that information as it's relevant to transit specifically, to give you sort of tutorials or new information about software. Additionally, beyond sort of the commercial vendor application, we are also wanting to share open source GIS applications. Both desktop and web-based GIS applications that are in the open source arena are an avenue for transit agencies to consider. There's a degree of inexpensiveness to them. As they mature, they become similar in terms of their utility to commercial applications, and people's experiences with these open source tools are also critical for us to share, that they had some challenges or some limitations, and that's with all of the software applications. So our software resources are going to be pointing to mechanisms to help you navigate either making decisions about software or how to get the most out of the software applications that you currently use at your organization. What I would characterize as a user community tool is our listserv. It's an important component, as Joel indicated. CUTR has several very successful and active listservs that really become a resource for their community. And this is an element that we certainly want to grow and allow our Transit GIS listserv to become a resource for all of you out there, whether it's dealing with Google Transit or Microsoft's new online trip planner. Of course, we have some activity with open source, what's called Open Trip Planner. We have people that are already trying to test that tools out. And then any experiences that the community has, as well as inside of CUTR, in dealing with things such as service planning or bus stop prioritization, I think are lessons that we can all learn from each other to continue to sort of feed into each other and provide each other with great utility and opportunity to grow the skill set. And then something new that we haven't done before, and obviously CUTR is undertaking this endeavor too, and with the NCTR support, we'll be able to create 4 webinars that will feature sort of experiences or new technologies that agencies are going through. So you can get a sense of when an agency has implemented their new real-time system, sort of the pitfalls and difficulties that they experience, and if they had to do it over again, what would they do? So when you're looking to implement these technologies, these webinars would become a resource for you to get an understanding of what you need to avoid, how to write your RFP, for example. I know with several agencies in Florida are implementing real-time systems, and they've been communicating with each other to avoid the pitfalls that maybe one may have experienced and the other may avoid. We're hoping to do 4 of these annually, and these webinars, we will come up with the ideas initially, but again, it's really important to us and important for you to recognize that we'll be listening. We'll always have a mechanism for us to change the direction. Direction probably is not the right word, but change the focus of some of our activities to ensure that the Transit GIS community is getting the most out of the Clearinghouse. One example actually was, before I hand it over to Amber, was actually there was someone I know who's participating. I won't use his name so he's not embarrassed perhaps, but he made a recommendation that we add the capacity to put maps, where user-developed maps, so people can see nice examples of transit maps on our website. So we're going to build something to allow people to upload or maybe just email us their PDFs to give us an opportunity to share these experiences with the Transit GIS community. So the last component of the Clearinghouse, of course, beyond the website, is our biannual or every 2-year conference, Transit GIS conference. And with that, I'd like to introduce Amber Reep, who is the co-chair, and she will tell you a little bit about our new upcoming conference in just 1 second. Amber?
Thank you, Martin, and good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure to be with you this afternoon and to talk to you a little bit about the GIS and Public Transportation Conference. This conference is sponsored by the National Center for Transit Research, and we have been offering this conference since 1995. As Martin mentioned, we offer the conference every 2 years. It's typically held in Florida, and the objective of the conference is to help transportation professionals from all areas within the public and private sector by providing professional development opportunities, facilitating and sharing resources and, of course, industry information, enabling peer-to-peer networking, and engaging and learning about new vendor technologies. We typically have participation from all over the country, but also internationally. And there are people who attend, whether they're presenting or participating or they're a vendor, they are truly leaders within the industry. And every 2 years, we're terribly excited to host it. So my first question for all of you is, have you ever attended the GIS conference in the past? I just wanted to get an idea from our audience who has participated in the past, who has not. Hopefully by 2011, some of you will be able to attend, and I'll be telling you a little bit more information about it in just a minute. It looks like everybody has finished voting, so I'm going to show the results. And it looks like the majority of folks who are on the webinar this afternoon have not been on the been to the conference. 76% of you, 23% have, and hopefully we'll be able to see more of you in the 2011 conference. One of the great things in this last conference that we hosted is that we established a partnership with URISA, the Urban and Regional Information System Association. They are now our co-host for the conference, and we are pleased to be co-hosting it with them again in 2011, and we will be hosting it in St. Pete, Florida, and I'll be sharing some additional details with you in just a moment. If you have not had an opportunity to check out one of our past conferences, on the Transit Clearing website, we have a list or a proceedings of past presentations that are available for you. So if you've not been to the conference or you want to check something out that you recall seeing in the past, the GIS Clearinghouse website has all of the proceedings and presentations from the last 2 years of conferences. In 2011, we will be hosting again the Public Transportation GIS Clearinghouse. If this is the multiple years that you've joined us, you'll notice that the conference has a new name. It used to be called the GIS in Transit Conference. We're now calling it the Public Transportation GIS Conference, simply to open up the lines of communication to more of the public transportation industry. We didn't want transit to simply include bus. We wanted it to include things like rail and transportation demand management, so we're hoping to get greater participation from the whole public transportation industry. The conference is scheduled to be September 12th through the 14th, 2011. The first day will be scheduled ERISA pre-training classes as part of their certification program, and then the conference itself will be the 2 days preceding that. Again, it will be in St. Pete, Florida, and September is always a great time to visit Florida, so hopefully we'll be able to see a lot of you. And it's at the Hilton Bayfront, which is where we had it in 2007. I would encourage all of you to continue to check out the Clearinghouse website. We will be opening up a call for presenters shortly, and we are looking for some great opportunities to hear about what's going on within your agencies or within the industry, new and innovative things that you're doing in all kinds of areas of tracks, including things like ATS, ITS, AVL, CAD, transit informatics, GTFS, geospatial data, free and open source GIS, asset management, any number of things that you're doing within your agency that you think that others can learn from or you'd like to tell about. We would certainly love to hear from you, and we hope that you consider responding to the call for presenters when it is open. At the same time, we will also be opening up a call for vendors shortly. This is a great opportunity for participants who are attending the conference to learn from the vendors about new software packages that are coming out, new products that are being introduced to the industry, and other great products that people can utilize. So I have one more polling question for all of you. We have in the past offered this conference every 2 years, and as Martin mentioned, we often experience this high feeling where after the conference everyone is excited about networking and communicating and doing new things in the industry, and then we feel as though there's some momentum lost. And so my question to you is this every 2-year format something that we want to continue, or is, in your opinion, should we be offering this conference every year? And it looks like most people are still voting, so I'll just keep it open one more second if you'll finish casting your votes. All right, it looks like we're split down the middle almost. 51% say that they enjoy the conference every 2 years, and 48% would like to see it offered every year, and we'll certainly keep that in mind moving forward, although I do believe that this clearinghouse will help with the momentum and keep people focused through the coming years. All right.
Well, Amber, thank you very much. And it looks like you have a little bit more information to share.
I was simply going to ask everyone to keep an eye out on the website and also on ERISA's website for updates on registration, the call for papers, and the call for vendors. We certainly invite everyone's participation. We realize that travel restrictions are an issue in this time and day, and so if you can make it, great. Again, we're only offering it at this point every 2 years, so hopefully that will help alleviate some of those travel issues, but certainly it's a worthy conference. It's a conference that's specialized, and these group of folks don't often get together, and we find that by bringing these people together, great things happen. So we hope to see you all in 2011.
Amber, again, thank you very, very much. Could you take just a moment and tell us a little bit about one of the features of the conference that we had last year, where young people, usually students or young professionals, had developed applications that could be used for guiding people on how to use transit services and schedules and maps. I thought it was just incredible, and I thought you might want to take a moment and describe that.
Sure. Last year we had a panel presentation, and I'll have Martin jump in here in a minute, that was coordinated by Google Transit, and it was dealing with free and open source GIS information, and some very industrious people, not specifically working for the industry, but were riders and believers of public transportation, developed their own software programs that they were either allowing people to use as an open source type of resource, or they were charging a small fee for, and it was linking a lot of Google data with transit data to allow the participants or the riders to track any number of things, where a bus was at a certain time, to track multiple layers of a trip, including walking or biking and a bus ride. Martin, did you want to add anything more about the panel presentation?
Yes, actually, one of the things that I think was most impressive is what Amber was talking about, is that these were resources developed without any cost to the transit agencies. And these were resources that were the result of the transit agencies putting their data in a format that was easily consumable and easily programmed around. And I think many agencies were sort of surprised by the reality that this is something I wish we could build in-house, but we've been told it's too difficult or too hard. And the lesson, for what I thought an important lesson that we were sharing, was the fact that with a cooperative and open data environment, that agencies can really leverage the information they have to help customers and others to really develop some really unique and special activities. And that's the kind of thing that we see the conference. We see a lot of that at the conference, that, oh, I had never realized I can do this, or now I know how to do this. I had never considered storing my data, whether it's dealing with the Google Transit feeds and the open source development. It really created an opportunity for people to have a lot of aha moments. And sort of that's where we're hoping that the GIS Clearinghouse website will continue to do that, and our webinars will continue to give that, that venue to sort of have the aha moments or to get feedback from people. But that was a perfect example of a session at the conference that really, I think, opened people's eyes to the opportunities of developing data.
Right, and Martin, I'd like to echo your encouragement for people to go to the Clearinghouse, join some of the listservs, because when it comes to new technologies, doing research reports, they don't keep up with it fast enough. Usually it takes 1.5 years to almost 2 to complete a full research report, and by the time you finish a report like that, the technology may well have changed. So the real way to stay in touch is through things like these listservs or through these clearinghouses, where people can be sharing and exchanging information on a real-time basis, on a very flexible basis. And again, we encourage you to please take part in that. We also encourage anyone who has a question to please send it along. And we do have one question from Florida, and it has to do with why are we emphasizing public transit so much, or almost to the exclusion of all other things. And Amber and Martin, if you'd like to answer that.
Well, I think that probably 2 basic reasons. Public transit is an area that does not have a lot of mechanisms. Actually, the Transit GIS conference is very unique, and there isn't another example of it around in the country that I'm familiar with. There may be a few conferences that focus on public transportation and technology that GIS may be included, but being exclusively in this arena is unique and unusual. And in fact, if you go to many GIS and technology conferences, a lot of them are centered around highway side or modes that are not in the public transit realm. So I think that's one of the main reasons. We're trying to fill a gap that we think exists out there, and I think that's why NCTR also exists, that we're looking at obviously one mode or one set of modes in the public transit realm. However, we are certainly looking at it in the sense that because it's something that's lacking in the community. Amber, if there's something you wanted to add to that.
Actually, I would just say that you very eloquently stated that fact, that there are a lot of opportunities for GIS with regard to highway planning and roadways And we're just trying to fill this niche, which is specific to transit. And I think that's what's so unique about the conference itself, is that we're bringing people together who don't normally get together in most circumstances. Yes, they might go to a GIS conference, but it may not necessarily be transit specific, which is what their job function is. And so that's where this conference is kind of set aside for the GIS and public transportation professionals.
Okay, thank you, Amber and Martin. And for all of you who have called in and participated, I really hope that you've enjoyed this netcast and that it's provided you with some useful information that you'll be able to act on. From CUTR's point of view, of course, we're delighted to do research, but we could do the greatest research in the world, and if the results of it don't get into the hands of the people that can use it and benefit the public, then we've done nothing of any purpose. So it's our pleasure to be providing these netcasts, which we intend to do every 2 weeks at the same time on Thursday at lunch at a time we hope is convenient for you on a variety of topics. It won't be only public transportation. It could be any number of subjects that we cover here at CUTR, and we invite you to attend them either live or you can go to our website at www.cutter.usf.edu. And we'll have them archived there, and you can hear and view them again through stream video. So I would encourage you that if you know of others who you think could benefit from the contents of this netcast or other netcasts, it will be available on our website for viewing at a time that's convenient for them. So we have an evaluation form that's on your screen right now. And we hope that you will take a moment to indicate how you would rate this session, whether it's excellent or very good, good, fair, or if you thought it was poor. We value your feedback. And if you could go ahead and fill out that form, we'd appreciate it very, very much. Jennifer, do you have other questions?
It looks like, Martin, that there's one question, and
yes.
It is, how to get application that links data, transit data with Google Transit that were presented at the conference last year?
How to get the application that link? Let me look at that question again.
Okay. I suspect that they're talking about the Google panel presentation.
Yes. Well, actually, the Google Transit is what its data repository is called. Is called the GTFS, the Transit GIS. The Google. Actually, it's not called the General Transit Feed Specification. Google has gone ahead and removed its moniker on it to make sure everyone recognizes that it's a standard that's being changed by the user community. And so the application to access the data is really any application, because it's stored in a simple, it's actually multiple text files that can be downloaded and brought into any variety of software applications. And in fact, actually, we will be presenting or talking about a couple of open source tools that allow you to bring the application, the GTFS data, into different types of databases that allow you to a combination of either create or edit a GTFS data. Many agencies, though, however, when they're using or creating their Google Transit data, rely on vendor software like HASIS or Trapeze to develop that. But the people that performed the presentation, they were using the raw GTFS data that the transit agencies around the country that are allowing it to be shared or consumed by others. That's just any kind of software that you could use to consume that data is eligible as long as the agency is sharing it. And in fact, I would point out an article that we did have on our website, the Transit GIS website, which is looking at a company that has developed a website called City Go Round, which shows you a long list of tools that you can use to get access to the GTFS data. So I hope that answers your question. It's really not an application out there. It's such a raw data format that you could use either spreadsheets or Access database or more advanced like SQL Server or MySQL tools to consume and then manage and manipulate the data.
Okay, and Amber, are there any other questions that you can see?
Yes, actually, it looks like there's one more. Does the email listserv offer the ability to share contact information so others might be able to ask peers what they're doing with specific GIS tasks outside of the listserv environment?
Right now, we don't share the email listserv. I think what we've seen with other examples of listserv questions that might be illustrative is that someone would post a question like, how do you handle, how do you manage your bus stop inventory? What fields do you maintain? And then the person who poses the question would say, can you please respond off the listserv, so that people, that when the listserv becomes quite active, it can be troubling in that you're getting a lot of people chiming in, oh, this is what I do, this is what I do, and then it becomes something of a burden. So when someone participates in the listserv activity, what they would do, they would ask people to reply to them directly as opposed to the list. And then as a courtesy, we would always ask that you might be able to compile the responses that other people had out there to share with the rest of the listserv. It's also important to note, I'm glad that question was asked, that when you register for the listserv, there are a couple ways that you could receive the emails in the listserv. If it's a very active listserv and you're getting a lot of topics being brought up, that you may not want to receive 25 emails in one day when there's a hot topic being discussed. So you could receive what's characterized as a digest, a daily digest or a weekly digest, which would give you a list of all of the emails that occurred during the course of the week on the listserv. So there's kind of multiple sort of mechanisms you can use to control how you access the information.
All right, and any other questions?
It looks like there's one more question. It's kind of a challenging question, though. Are there security and safety issues of making the GIS information readily available to the public?
Tanya, I appreciate that question. That's a question that actually for a long time, from the point when aerials were becoming more available, and obviously all of this is in the post 9/11 environment, that sharing and having access to this data is something that does present some security issues, but my response to that has always been that the truth of the matter is that it's really been low technology that terrorists have used. It hasn't been high technology like GIS applications to help them perform the acts that they do. I think there's always a security risk when we are sharing data. But I don't think that any of the data that we're sharing, such as census tracts or the location of transit routes or stops, is not data that's not already in the public realm, like transit schedules you could pick up at a transit agency. So we haven't encountered any that have what I would characterize as sort of created an undue safety environment. But that's a question that I'd be willing to delve into more deeply if there were other people experienced other things in more metropolitan areas. And obviously, the larger urbanized areas certainly would encounter that threat and fear a little bit more readily than perhaps the more or less metropolitan communities. But to date, I have not experienced any genuine security threats, but that doesn't mean it hasn't happened.
All right, then, Martin, Amber, I want to thank you very much for sharing the information on the Clearinghouse and on the upcoming conference. We hope that we will get more people to attend in November of 2011 in St. Petersburg. We've had great attendance in the past, not only from people in the United States, but from people from South America, Europe, and Asia. I think that you will find a great deal of information there that will be very, very useful to you. And, of course, the Clearinghouse and the listservs are something that will just keep you as up-to-date as you can possibly be in this emerging field. So, again, thank you to everyone that has tuned in here. Again, we intend to do this every 2 weeks, so we hope that you might put this on your calendar at noon on Thursday. And we look forward to more interactions with you. I want to also thank Jennifer Eiley and Stephanie Zavacki for their technical assistance in producing this, and hope you have a good day, and we hope to hear from you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.